So a little bit about myself and Melissa. We both went to the University of Texas. I know there's some Aggies in here. Hopefully there's some UT alums here as well.
Look 'em, baby.
There we go, yeah. So got my master's in public accounting in 2008. Melissa graduated in 2007. Have been a CPA since 2009. Previously worked at 3 accounting firms, consulting firms, Ernst & Young, Overmont Consulting, and Whitley Penn. Did a lot of litigation consulting, and then Melissa, you can go through your background.
I worked at KPMG, public accounting for 3 years, and I hated it, so I switched and became a nurse. So I've been at Texas Children's since 2012, and I just recently left my job in May.
Yeah, so Melissa's been really new to the whole full-time real estate investor world. I've been retired, quote unquote, since May of 2018. So I took the jump first and then finally convinced Melissa saying, hey, we can get you.
3 years, that's pretty good.
Yeah, get you off of that too. So.
And I will say that there was a time when, I don't know what I was doing there, but I came around a corner in a Kia, and I think you two were looking for like upgrade options or something for this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You don't remember that?
IKEA.
Yeah, oh, that's right, yeah.
Yep.
Yep, that's right. I think we were looking for countertops or
So you were engaged even before you were full-time in the business. You were out there scouting countertops.
Yeah, she was working for free, you know.
Yeah.
I still work for free.
This is kind of an HGTV, you know, you can do this at home.
Okay, so why do we join Lifestyles? Melissa, you want to take this part?
Yeah, so I, as you know, am a nurse, and while it's a great profession, the raises are small, and in order to make more money, most people either take a leadership position or they go back to school. Most people go back to school to be a nurse practitioner or a nurse anesthetist, so that's what I did, not necessarily because I wanted to, I just felt like it was the thing to do. But I was really unhappy in grad school, and so it really forced me to evaluate what I wanted my life to look like. Do I want to continue to work for the hospital in healthcare, working weekends and nights forever until I retire, or do I want something else? And so that's really what led us to real estate, and I found Lifestyles just by a Google search.
Yeah, came to a case study just like some of you guys, and went to the 2-day that same weekend and joined up that Sunday night. So very similar story. So.
That's funny. Most people I think I talk to find it on the radio, on the talk show, but Google works too.
Yeah,
Got you in the same place.
The funny thing is, Melissa will come back to me and is like, "Oh, I got my annual evaluation. Guess what my raise was this year? $1.02 an hour." Great. We knew we had to do something different, right?
I got it.
So Country Club Place is the deal that we're talking about today. It's 240 units. It's about 3 miles southeast of downtown.
If you know where Gus Wortham Golf Course is, it's kind of right across the street from there.
Directly across the street from there.
Some call it Edo now.
Yeah, it's kind of all melding in together. Purchased in June of 2019, $18.15 million, about $75,000 a door or so. Cash out of pocket, $6.5 million. Not all from us, obviously. We have some of our passive investors in the room today as well. So it's a syndicated deal that we're the lead investors on. Initial financing was a Fannie loan, $13.5 million.
Hold on a second, because I know you just said $6.5 million. Do you remember how many investors were in your deal?
109.
Okay, so first one, folks we have people from out of state. Was every one of your 109 investors here in Houston, or are they from all across America? Because I have people out there listening.
Yeah, they're
who wanna know
from.
if they can do this.
Yeah, they're from everywhere. Met a lot of folks. Expo the last few years, so handing out cards, networking with everybody. So yeah, we have investors in California, Tennessee, Arizona, everywhere.
Yeah, so something you have to keep in mind is this is a pretty local event. I would imagine everybody in the room is local, but when we have the expo this year in Dallas, Labor Day weekend, we have, well, I don't know what we call it now. It used to be the pig meet and greet.
I still call it that.
Okay, we're the old schoolers, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so the pig meet and greet, basically everyone who is into multifamily, we all get together in one big ballroom, And we walk around, meet each other, card passing, networking, et cetera, et cetera. The events like tonight, events like the road trips and the other things that David will probably take you through this weekend, these are all networking events to meet the people that are either going to help you and help educate you. We share ideas because we're peers on this kind of stuff. Those of you that are investors want to meet us, and so you can invest in the next deal, et cetera. But even better than all that, we now have a process called Podium that somebody at Lifestyles, it's a proprietary customer relation management system that links the leads to the investors. And so you guys can make contact virtually. And it's a fantastic upgrade to what we're doing
It
now.
works so well, that Podium system now. It's great.
To invest in deals out of state, it's unbelievable.
And one last question quick before we go on, because I know people are listening. They're like, well, I don't have $6 million. What was the lowest investor you had in that deal?
I actually looked earlier today because I knew that question was coming.
I always ask it. Amazing, right?
I know we have several at 25,000. I think we.
Thank you for giving room for the little guys. Give 'em a hand for that.
Yeah.
Not everybody has millions of dollars.
Yeah, so, and I'll tell you, my first deal was January 8th of 2008. Back then, we really didn't have people joining the multifamily program if you didn't have $100,000 to put in one deal. And we wanted you to have more than that so you could do more than one deal at a time. We really restructured that. Dell put out the word, basically, a few years ago, and he asked everybody to leave a few slots for lesser investors. So yours was 25. I've heard people up here on other nights that I've hosted down to like $5,000 and $10,000, I think I've heard in some small deals. So there's a place for everybody here. Most important thing is get out of the chair and get involved.
Yeah, so I know we're talking about your deal tonight, but I just want people out there listening. You can invest smaller amounts of money, just so you understand. I want to know everybody know that there is a place for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people doing deals that they want to save reserve spots for the smaller investors because we all know we came from the same spot. We all want. That's the great thing about Lifestyles. We all want to help each other grow, and so that's why we do that. A lot of folks can say, oh, well, I only want to take 100,000 or more. But again, with the technology that we have today, it makes that process so much easier that we can have, more investors. A lot of people hear me say, I was like, okay, we have 110 investors, whatever. It's like, is that a pain in the butt? Not really, because we communicate. We have the systems in place to communicate and send out ACH distributions and all that stuff. It's simplified our lives. So yeah, I'm happy to take more people. So.
And you mentioned the financing, rehab budget, $1.1 million to fix the potholes and the sunroofs I was talking about before, and we'll see pictures of what you did with all that.
Yeah, thankfully the potholes and the
That part
sunroof
was
were
gone
gone
by
by
the
the time I had it. But
All right.
yeah, so kind of the financials here, income, last few months about $205,000 a month. Operating expenses hovers around $90K a month. After all the expenses are paid, insurance, all that stuff. Monthly cash flow about $44,000 a month, where they're about to. It always fluctuates depending on what's going on that particular month. NOI about 1.3 million thereabouts on an annualized basis. Cash on cash return, we're talking year 2 about 7.5%, and then next year 9.8%.
So let me go into. I don't want to get too deep on this, but we have two basic strategies that we employ here. One's called a value play, one's called a yield play. Yield play, think of it like a bond or a coupon where you're going to get a pretty good amount of money consistently from the beginning. This one was a value play. Despite the fact that somebody had already taken out the potholes and the sunroofs, he still had a lot of work to do. We're going to see that when we get to the pictures of before and after. But this deal was a true value play where there were no distributions for the first 12 months, and you knew that going in. Once he got the basics fixed, he got it reoccupied, he started raising rents. We were ready to rock and roll with 7.5% distributions in year 2, 9.8% year 3, and $350,000 since acquisition that you've distributed so far. With you got to keep in mind too where we've been as a country for the last year to 18 months, and he played it really conservative. So while he distributed $350,000, he also held $250,000 back in case things got worse than they were. Okay. And that's all going to come to the passives sooner or later.
How many folks like that he was conservative, held back money during COVID just to be safe?
Absolutely.
Man, for doing that.
Absolutely.
Right way of doing it.
And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. We did take a dip, but it's one of those things where in March of 2020 we were all freaking out. What is gonna happen? Yep. Okay, real estate didn't go away, right? So we're all here standing. We're still making money. It was not as much as we wanted projected going in, because we bought this deal in June of 2019. 9 months later, COVID hit. Okay, we were trending up and up and up, and then, well, the government shut us down, basically. Anyway, so current valuation on a 5.5% cap rate based on the NOI, about just under $25 million. We bought it for 18 million change. So
Now, again, where he's being really conservative, I don't want to get into cap rates, but it's a market index for how much properties are worth. The higher the cap rate, the lower the property is worth. The lower the cap rate, the more it's worth. He had a 6 cap in here and a lower valuation. I told him, no, that's not good enough. I'm lowering it to a 5.5. But if I wanted to really impress you, I could comfortably go down to a 5 cap on this, and it would probably be worth another $2 million, something like that. And I'd still be well within the market range. And I'll
That's what
let
we're
David
buying
get
at
into
right
the
now.
specifics.
Yeah, guys.
We're buying.
If
Yeah.
you're brand new, I know a lot of the words you're saying right now sounds like Greek. I will break it down to a 3rd grade level. You'll understand all that. If you're brand new, this is what you need to look at. What is the rate of return on an annualized basis? I know what 7.5% a year tax-free would be. I know what the doubling effect is, which is they're going to get to later. That's what I want you to understand if you're new. But the cap rate and all that, that's for people that are inside baseball, but you'll learn all that. Don't worry.
Just know that that 25 million roughly that's on there, it'd probably be 27 if I weren't being
And
concerned.
what did they buy it for?
18 and change, right?
18 and change, yeah.
So that's a good chunk you made.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some before and after photos. This is up in the front of the office here. They had this little gazebo kind of awning type deal. It didn't really look that pretty, so we did this cantilevered awning, put the name of the property in front just to give it a presence, because before you really didn't know where the office was, and now you drive up, okay, boom, right there, we know where the office is, so yeah. And then office, we really didn't do a lot of structural changes to the office, just made it a lot more modern. And Melissa, you can talk more about this stuff, because Melissa's kind of the design person. If I
She
if
didn't
I
let
were
you
to do
pick
it,
colors?
no, absolutely not.
Okay.
I didn't. I mean,
Yeah,
we
but you're the
had a
design
designer
person,
for this property, and I kind of worked with her. But we just created like this L-shape leasing office desk. So right when you walk in, that's what you see. You're immediately greeted by our leasing consultants. To the left of that picture, we created a coffee bar, wet bar, and then we added a like a computer for resident or prospects to apply.
Do their online application
It's
instead
a
of filling
business
out the
center
paperwork.
applications, and because that's the biggest thing on these larger multifamily assets is you want to have a good presence in the office when you walk in, because that's your first impression, right? So customer service, walk in, you feel like this is the place you want to be. You walk in an office that feels closed off, dark. You know, everybody gets that first impression, right? You know, you only have about 20 to 30 seconds to make that first impression. And so that's why we do a lot with our offices to make it look really nice.
Absolutely. And you got the shiplap, so
Yeah.
you got to have that off of HGTV.
I do that in mine too, yeah.
So right here is our first courtyard by the office, and you can actually see from the office while you're sitting at those desks out onto this courtyard. So that's an artificial turf. So we only decided to do one of those courtyards this way, just to give it more of a
So it's always
homey
green.
feel. Yep.
Yeah, first effect. Good. I like it.
And so yeah, these are the mailboxes. I want to say these probably were the original mailboxes from back in the 70s. So we went ahead and took those out completely. So these were each individual mailbox in each building, and we relocated them all right next to the hallway, the alleyway right behind the office. And then we also added these package lockers, just because we don't want to accept packages in the office. So Amazon, UPS, FedEx, they just go and they have their own individual codes. Each resident gets a thing on their phone, has a 6-digit code, walks up to this iPad, punches it in.
Awesome.
The locker opens. Basically, this is the same thing that have a Home Depot, Whole Foods, Targets, whatever. So
So
really
this is the type of thing that they started doing in Class A new construction stuff, and now we're bringing it down to something that was C-class or less at one time in its life, and you guys have brought it up.
yeah, it does really well because it's right there behind the office. Every tour that the leasing consultants do, they say, hey, we have this package locker. You don't get your packages stolen, because that's what would happen, right?
Yeah.
So you would say, hey, office wouldn't accept the package. Okay, mail person, go put it in front of the unit door. Person next door, boom, here's my package, right? So we wanted to avoid that. It's just a customer service thing. If people are having their packages stolen, they're just gonna get frustrated. The same thing is like if your AC is broken, they're gonna get frustrated. So this is just a customer retention tactic for us. So I think, no, this is a little bit behind where the building that burned down was. So this is a little bit further in front, literally where that pet park is right now. It was green grass, and this is where the building was that burned down. There was a huge mound of dirt when we first toured it. They took it away and made grass, and we took it further and put a pet park because, as you know, people treat their pets just like kids. So
Better than kids.
a lot of times, yeah.
Guys, do you know why we love pets more than children? We can charge more.
There you go.
You're
Can't
right.
charge for kids.
So what he's talking about is we charge pet rent. How much do you get?
We are at 20 per pet,
20 per pet.
plus the pet fee up front. So
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and you charge a, what, $300
$300
up front?
per
Yep.
pet fee up front, and then an extra deposit actually.
They will pay it without question.
Yeah, that's
It's true.
They will argue about a $25 a month rent increase, but they will not question if you raise the pet rent.
I'm just mad we can't charge more for children.
maybe that's the next thing we need to do. So Melissa, you want to take this one?
This is our model unit, so it was kind of dated. We replaced a lot of our ground floor units with we replaced the carpet with a vinyl plank, so that also helps with turnovers. We just applied a fresher coat of paint and then just updated the furnishings.
Very similar to what everybody else does. We do, all the other apartment owners in lifestyles, we do vinyl plank and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, by the way, before tonight, we hosted meetings here with other lead owners from 3 to 5 o'clock, and that's our information sharing time. I mean, we talked about property taxes, we'll talk about flooring, we talked about paint and the fact that Sherwin-Williams can't deliver right now and they're charging too much. We talk about everything and we share all these ideas.
Even talked about toilets.
We did talk about toilets today, you're right.
Put some toilets and save 50% on your water bill.
Water bill, low flow toilets and shower heads, absolutely.
Simple stuff, right?
All right, so this is getting back to the numbers.
Yeah, so I don't want to go through this in too much detail, but as you can see, year one, this is June to June of 2020, right in the middle of COVID. We still distributed money during COVID, although we did hold back some, that we talked about. And then year two, still kind of feeling the impacts of COVID, but I think we're kind of digging ourselves out. Actually, we're pre-leased to 99% right now, so
Time to raise rent.
Yep, time to raise rent. And then year three, I think we're just gonna keep going and continue to go further up.
I didn't notice that. Did we get a distribution the first year?
We did,
5.8%?
yeah.
All right, great.
We
Good
still
job.
got distributions first year, so yeah.
I thought we, yeah.
Yeah, smaller than we projected, but of course,
Did I cash the check?
it went in your bank account.
Okay.
So yeah. So this is kind of the valuations that we were talking about before.
So this is where we were talking about the cap rate comes in. You take the net operating income, the NOI, and you divide it by the cap rate, and you get what the property value is. So that's what this chart is illustrating for you as the net operating income as they made the improvements they did. The value went up each year, and we do an annual valuation on these properties. And there was a certain amount of equity capture, which we talked about in single family, except instead of measuring it by the tens of thousands of dollars, we measure it by the hundreds of thousands of dollars or the millions in multifamily. So in this case, again, using what I think is a very conservative market estimate, after 2 years, which we've completed now, we've captured $5.8 million in valuation on this deal. And the way that the third year is laying out, which is what we're into right now, we look like we're going to be $7,350,000. What was the original investment again?
6.5.
$6.5 million. So you take that capture on the equity, you look at the distribution he's made, and in 3 years, the people in this deal have made 136% return on their investment on
So,
this deal. Absolutely.
And I just want to make sure that people understand it because we're redoing our numbers how we used to present them. That's above their initial investment.
Their initial investment's
You're getting
still
all
in
your
there.
money back plus an extra $7.3 million.
Now let's talk about, so this loan, you have how many, 5 years of interest only on this?
5 years interest only. It's a 12-year term.
So this is right about the time, this year 3 time, when we would look at doing what's called a supplemental loan. We don't have to refi the whole thing. We just get it reappraised, and they loan us an additional amount of money for the equity capture that we have in this deal, and it's distributable, tax-free. No tax on that, okay? We're not doing that in year 3 on this, though.
We're probably going to wait a little bit just to take advantage at additional interest only.
We've got additional interest only.
Keep increasing the value.
More time to increase the value. And, you know, we're coming out of this COVID deal, but let's make sure we're free and clear before we pile on more debt and celebrate too hard, right? So again, conservative, 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 while we're doing really, really well and getting 10% distributions this year, 9.8 or whatever it was.
So in a couple years, when you pull that out, so let's say you do a refi, pull out 80% of the money, tax-free. Is that pretty good?
It's pretty good by me.
Not too bad, right?
Do you know the technical term in the industry if you make that kind of return for your investors?
Tell me.
Pee in your pants, exciting.
Oh.
I just want to hear the accountant say it.
That's your term, David. I don't want to steal it. Okay, so how do we achieve this? You know, I think we're very much just like anyone sitting in this room. We didn't have real estate experience before. So we, like Scott, jumped straight from doing the 2-day seminar, getting all the education, doing all the classes online, doing all that stuff that we needed to do initially. When we got comfortable, then we jumped in. Like Scott was saying, myself, Melissa, and I joined up with another Lifestyles preferred member. We bought a 54-unit in Texas City, sold that one in 2018. That one also made it over 100%. And then we went ahead and started syndicating deals as lead investors and bringing on passives because we wanted to make sure we knew what we were doing before we had other people's money and had a fiduciary duty. So if we're going to mess up, hey, let's mess up on our own dime first before we do that. But obviously we didn't because we had all the education here and the support here, all the operations people here as well. So
by the way, you have utilized mentors and operations consultants. I did want to point out, I didn't see her before. Randa, wave. So Randa, Curtis, and Lee and I, oh, and that's Lee next to her, by the way. You weren't there either. Wave.
Yeah, they came back from happy hour, I think.
Nice coral shirt.
Yeah. We help mentor you into the buying process. If you're buying your own deal or you want to be a lead and you need somebody to talk about the day-to-day specifics of how to run it, that's where Randa comes in. She was a regional supervisor with who knows how many thousands or tens of thousands of units underneath her for a major player, and now she's ours here in Houston, and we have one in all the major cities in her position as well to help out.
And I don't want to forget Kim, who helped us on our first deal. So I know he's over there screaming at you.
So Kim, go ahead, Kim, stand up. Yeah, you can do it. Come on. He's a little old now, but when he was younger, he was also an individual owner, a syndicator, a mentor, and then he retired and moved to a lake in Austin, and now we get to see him about twice a year.
I was going to say, I'm surprised Kim's here.
Yeah, he came just for you.
I don't know about that. But yeah, so that's, obviously we have to thank all of our passive investors as well. Like I mentioned, there's 100+ Lifestyles families here. I see a few of you, and I'm sure there's a few.
Raise your hand if you're in this deal.
Well.
There you go. Give a hand to those
All right.
folks.
There you go. So, a big part of what we do as lead investors is it's not just about the money. It's also, in order to be successful in this business, you also have to give back to your residents and really build a community. So we like to do a lot of these, monthly events for our residents, give back to them because in order for them to feel good about where they're living, we also have to appreciate them and show them, that we care.
I think you told me a couple of weeks ago y'all did a taco truck or something out.
Yeah, we did breakfast on the go, actually.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, breakfast
Okay.
on the go.
No, for Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, and
they
Cinco de-
did
yeah.
all
Oh, there you go.
fajitas.
Yeah, we do an event every month or so. So we do a lot of those.
One last question really quick for you guys because it's important for the people watching. You're up there. This is your new career path. You're there running these properties and stuff. Could you explain to the new people out there watching for the first time what involvement does a passive investor have in the deal and how much work is it for them, for the people that might think about doing this in the future?
Here's my serious answer is you don't really do anything other than, hey, check in, read your emails every month, and then
Check
That's
your
pretty
bank
much-
account so you know when
yeah.
you get a check. Because
Say, hey, we're running. It's July. When's that next distribution coming? So that's pretty much what you do.
Who likes that way of investing? In my hand, that's huge for the investors.
And if you're like some of our investors, you bug me on Facebook and mess with me like that. I can do that. No, I'm just kidding. So how has lifestyles changed our life? Obviously, we're both retired as quote unquote from corporate America. Really, we work for ourselves now rather than work to make our company money. So we figured out, hey, look, I've worked 60 hours, 70 hours, 80 hours a week in consulting, making other people millions of dollars. I need to do that on my own. So that's really what it has changed our lives. Like we decide where we want to go, what we want to do. Obviously, we have a responsibility to all of our passive investors and everybody to do the work and make sure it's performing the way it needs to perform. But we also are able to say, hey, if we want to go somewhere on vacation, I ask her, and that's it. Right? Instead of, oh, hey, can I take a week off, in 3 months? If we want to go somewhere tomorrow, I look at her and say, hey, you want to go? Let's go. So, that's really what it is, and we want to just tell you guys that any one of you guys in here can do it too, because we're not any different than any of the people watching online too. So,
Really quick, I have one last thing that I really want to ask, because you've done this, become very successful at it. Think back to when you first joined. You were scared, you were nervous, it's real. What advice would you give to new people in the audience tonight and online watching for the first time? What advice would you give to new people about maybe joining up or maybe taking that step forward? What would you give to the new people?
well, first of all, I think the first thing is I was the skeptical one. First of all, she was the one who brought me here, and I didn't want to come.
Okay.
So I was like sitting at home. I think it was like 5 o'clock. I was like just got back from work. I was like, okay, we got to go to this thing at 6 o'clock. I don't really feel like going. It's like, no, you got to go. We're going. So you have to take action. Number one, that's the biggest thing. Yes, you're going to be scared, but we were also scared. But if you have the right people behind you, you have a team of supporting you. Scott, Kim, Randa, Lee, all these folks, you really can't go wrong, right? They're gonna be behind you. It's like, oh hey, because he's watching me. He's like, hey, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, he's gonna be like, okay, you gotta make some changes here. So,
well, and our job from the beginning is to keep you out of a bad deal as much as anything. I mean, real estate is pretty forgiving as long as you don't overpay up front or make some super critical mistake, right?
And you were triple scared because you were an accountant.
Yeah.
I thought this was a scam,
Okay.
honestly. But after attending the 2-day, I tell everyone I know, if you do nothing else, go to the 2-day. It will change your life. And yeah, everyone who's been agrees.
Awesome.
how many friends have we actually referred and became members? There's quite a few.
Okay.
1, 2. I see a few back
I
here
know I'm
somewhere.
mentoring one that did a tour on his first property today. I saw earlier.
Yeah, we got destroyed by mosquitoes today. That was terrible. So,
All right, we have everything else on here?
I think that's
We
it.
covered
Yeah.
All right, goals.
So short-term goals, we're continuing to evaluate properties and looking at properties to acquire, looking at hybrid and value plays, potentially evaluating the sale of our 2 smaller communities the next year or so. And then kind of long-term, we want to grow our portfolio to say around 2,000 units, because I think that's the level that is manageable without being overly cumbersome. Build out our asset management, property management team, and then eventually potentially buy our own larger deal as IROs, and potentially buy some single families for the future kiddos as their retirement plan. So,
There you go. Cool.
so who's like I said, real estate is a team sport. Couldn't do this just on your own, right? So you need good financing people. So we use LMI Capital. They've done at least 4 deals with that I'm the lead on, and then a few others that I was the KP and and on as well. Ruel, do I see him back there somewhere? No. Ruel is the Lifestyles Realty multifamily realtor that brought the deal. Gene Trowbridge and John from the syndicator, the people who put together the PPM. I'd like to thank our GC, Garden Construction, and of course Scott, who without his help, we couldn't do this deal. So really appreciate him stepping in and doing that. You need a picture.
You don't get a picture.
You could have inserted
No,
it
he's here
yourself.
live in person. Why do you need a picture?
By the way, for those of you that are not currently members, we have an extensive vendor network that somebody probably talked about tonight to help you through this process as well. LMI Capital is an independent, actually they just merged with Marcus and Millichap, but they do a lot of loan brokering, I guess I'll call it. They will go out, take this deal to market, and bring you back 4, 5, 6, 10 potential loans, and then we match it up with what you want to do, because loans are a little bit different, and the loan terms are part of the package with where we're trying to go with any particular property. Gene Trowbridge, SEC attorney. If you're a passive in a deal or a lead, this is somebody that gets engaged to come up with the company agreements, make sure that we're doing everything right and legal by SEC standards and blah, blah, blah. Keeps us on the right path. And then Guardian has done a lot of work inside of Lifestyles for leads as general contractors. And I've done a little bit.
Collect
All
the checks.
Let's open it up for questions.
So I got a question online here. Right over here, right over here.
There you are.
Hey, so on your first deal, the IRO deal, what type of lender did you use? Curious, since they lent to you with no experience. Did your partner have experience?
Yeah, neither of us had experience. We literally sat in the same 2-day class together, and that's how we got partnered up. And so that first deal, because it was our first deal, it was a bank loan. It's been a while. I forget exactly who it was. It was actually recourse. So Lifestyles teaches on these big deals. We take a lot of non-recourse debt, meaning you're not personally liable.
I'll explain all that this weekend.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So we had to take a recourse debt on that first deal because we didn't have the experience. And so that definitely is a little the nervousness and scared piece of it, because we took it was almost a $1.2 million loan. We signed on it, put all of our assets on, if things went south, they came and grabbed our house. They came and grabbed all of our bank accounts and all that stuff, right?
No, you made it seem like it happened. It didn't happen. Like they
No,
can.
you can, but that's when you get a little scared, like David said. But
Don't read the fine print.
you just have to go into it. You just have to commit to it.
Do you have kids?
No.
Okay.
Next question. Oh, come on. We didn't answer all these questions. Yes. Microphone in the back there.
What was your first deal a lead, or did you do passive deals first?
No, so that first deal was just ourselves and then another
Two partners.
just two people. We both came up with, I think it was around 300,000.
Have you guys passive invested? That might be a follow-up that they would ask.
Yeah. So we total unit count in our portfolio is about 758. We also invested in about 380 or so passive deals. KP.
But you did your IRO deal first before being a passive.
Correct.
Okay.
How much capital does it take to get started as a lead investor in the multifamily deals?
So the question was, how much capital does it take to get started as a lead in a multifamily deal? So the current rules, and we'll take you through all this. We ask that you join, get the basics done, and then schedule a meeting for us to drag you through the remainder. Do you guys get into this in the?
We don't get into it, but we'll teach you loan sizing, what it takes to put down. But there are people that are leads on small deals,
Yeah,
so
what we ask, and the size deal that you bite off on the first time depends on how much you have to put into it. We ask that you put a certain percentage of skin in the game, and then we help build the plan to scale you into it, tell you what you can accomplish, what you can qualify on a loan. It's possible you may have to do a recourse loan for your first deal to get some experience on your resume. So we kind of help you through all that and what's possible after we get to know you a little better.
and realistically on your first deal, if you want to know what that number is, it's 15% of the capital raise, whatever that amount is. I'm not going to get into all the weeds on that. We don't want to spend 20 minutes on that, but you have to have skin in the game.
But you do the math. Some people do $1 million deal the first time. They only need $250,000 to do the deal, so you got to put in 15% of that, less than $50,000 to be a lead.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I mean, there's expenses and stuff like that you have to pay out of pocket too, so you have to account for that stuff too. So
Take this one first.
What determines a full recourse and a non-recourse loan? Is it? I think I was under the impression of anything over $1 million is non-recourse.
Not necessarily. I'll tell you right now that I did a deal much larger, but it's whether or not the deal's bankable. If it's got potholes and sunroofs, you're not going to get a loan on it. It's probably less than 80% occupied. You'll get a loan, but not a non-recourse loan. Okay, so there are parameters that the lenders put around recourse and non-recourse, and it's possible. One deal that I did, it was over a $7 million loan. Only 10% of it was recourse, so I was only on the hook for $700,000. So it gets kind of complex. Again, I don't want to get too down in the weeds on this.
Yeah, guys, and don't get scared of recourse versus non-recourse.
No.
A lot of us, I just signed on a loan that was recourse. This property was 10% occupied. It's 100 units down in Corpus. Am I scared at all? No, because it's a good deal. So if
can't
it's a
get
good
any
deal,
worse.
it doesn't matter. You understand that? Some people get hung up on this. Don't worry about that. It's not a big factor.
We can get you over that. Yes. Okay, so the question was, how many deals do you have to analyze to find the deal, and specifically, what did it take to get his first deal?
yeah, the first deal I think we seriously looked at probably 5 or 6, but then prior to that probably looked at 20 or so, just kind of as we went through the deals, and we would sit up late at night and look at all the different deals and stuff like that anyway. So we looked at a lot.
And remember, he's an accountant.
Yeah, if he didn't hit on it, I was going to say, he's an accountant. I'm not, but I can tell you what I did for fun. I would sit at home after the kids were in bed, and I would do what we call our multifamily quick analysis tool and just see how deals sized up. And what that really gets you is your gut check, to where a lot quicker when you see things, you can judge them much quicker and make decisions to move forward or to pass and move on to the next deal. So that's just kind of homework, right? It's those boring math equations that you got to do,
Yeah,
20 of them.
It's my type A
how it
personality,
plays out. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So on this specific deal, where is he versus the original projection? Okay.
Yeah, so I will say, and if any of my investors still remember, I think the initial year we projected right around 7%. Obviously, COVID hit, and
Oh, did you miss that projection?
we a little, we had a little blip. I'm not gonna lie, we had a little blip. I think everybody kind of experienced that, and so we're kind of back on track. So the first couple years is, we had a slight underperformance, obviously due to market conditions. But now we're kind of back on track, and we'll probably beat that years 3 and 4.
But on a deal like this, generically, the model I would say is that after 3 years, you can probably count on about 100% of captured equity, and then how you got there depends on the deal itself. The MFQA tool, Multifamily Quick Analysis tool that I was talking about earlier, it has on the basic sheet a 3-year projection built right into it, and then there's a separate sell versus refi projection, and it goes out 6 years or 7? 6 years. So that's all kind of structured for you when you're looking at deals.
And folks, just so you know, from day one, every investor in this deal knew exactly what he was going to do. There was a plan. He got a PPM. He got an operating agreement saying it's a 3-year hold, a 5-year hold, 7-year hold. You knew it in writing what was happening exactly. There's no, what are we going to do next year? You know in writing.
For those of you that are not members, we do what we call a road trip, and it's an acquisition road trip. My job on an acquisition road trip is to pick one of the properties that's for sale and dive into the MFQA and lay it all out for you. So if you're going to be a passive, I want you to be smart enough to question his calculations and see if you can find where he went wrong. All right, or do you know what you're getting yourself into? If you're an IRO, if you're a lead, you need to be able to get that thing to a certain point before you bring it to Lee or Curtis or I for help, so that we don't have to start from scratch with you and we can move much faster. So that's all part of the education process.
Yeah, just to be extra transparent, every single lead that does deals here in Lifestyles, you get that MFQA, that calculation, as part of the package. And so you can go through a fine-tune comb and recalculate everything and say, okay, well, that doesn't make sense here, that doesn't make sense there. We're very transparent about giving you all those calculations, all the assumptions, and then we do webinars and Zoom meetings and all this stuff to go through all that.
And as much as transparency, it's a big piece of what suits you at this point in your life. Are you looking for a yield play? Are you looking as a value play? Are you looking for something in the middle, some sort of hybrid deal? And so we want you to be able to make that analysis for yourself.
And there's one more thing that's super powerful that they usually bring up, but they forgot. He has a whole team of people. Remember they said there was a meeting before this where all these guys, think about this, what we do in this industry. His apartment, right? There could be another Lifestyles member right across the street. They'll open their books and share all the information. Now think in the outside world. If you own a Sunoco here, and this guy owns an Exxon, do you think they open their books and share all their numbers with each other? That's the power of Lifestyles, is that abundance mentality. That's what mitigates our risk, is not only does he have his mentors, the vendors and all that, the operation consultants, it's the other members that own the properties as well that can all share each other.
Yeah, good example is Will's back there. He's another owner down the street from us.
William Acuna, yeah.
William's back there hanging out. And so his wife, Ganelle, and I would go back and forth and message. Sometimes, we'll be like, okay, what are you doing here? What's working? What's not working? So exact example that we share information for sure.
Karen didn't come back from happy hour, did she? Are you there, Karen? Troy? No? To give you an example, I'm selling one of my properties right now to another member, and they're getting total access, and I've told them if I kept it for another year or two, here are the things I would do. Obviously, it gets so transparent, actually, that I'm selling another deal next week to an outsider, and I did the tour with the broker in tow, and when it was all done, the buyer commented that it was the most all-encompassing tour they had ever had, and I looked at the broker and said, why am I paying you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the mentality that we all have, and we share it with each other. It comes off on our buyers when we're done with the properties as well, I guess I just found out. So
We're just used to doing it. So.
yeah. Okay, what else? Anything else? One more. Yeah, two more. Oh.
So this is kind of a follow-up question to the projections versus actual. Were you projecting that kind of value increase as well? Because I know there's been some cap rate compression. You may have actually exceeded your projections on that side.
Did you project 100% return to your investors originally?
No, so actually that's a very good question, because when we did our analysis, we actually ran the numbers using a 6.25 cap rate, because that was kind of prevailing at the time. And then, like you mentioned, there has been a little bit of cap rate compression, which of course helps with the value.
Heck, I had to bump him from 6 to 5.5 for these projections, and it's still conservative. So,
is it okay? Maybe he projected a 70% return. He might make over 100%. Who'd be okay with that? Remember, he's an accountant. He squeaks when he walks. I mean, really.
we have found trends in certain people being leads.
Most of my people are super conservative fiscally. I'm not saying politically. They're fiscally conservative. Who agrees? Most of us are fiscally conservative.
Yeah.
Who wants their lead to be fiscally conservative? Yeah, one of them to squeak.
Most of us didn't make it into being members, have enough money to be members without being
Yeah,
fiscally
think about it.
conservative.
If you're not fiscally conservative, you're not going to have the money to do this, realistically. That's absolutely true.
Anything else before we call it quits? Last one.
Yeah,
Great question. So as a lead investor, were you involved with the hiring of the new staff when you took over?
Yeah, so we own the asset management company and also the property management company, so we don't do a third-party management at all, because we want to be hands-on being involved in that. So we do all the hiring and firing. Technically, our team does a lot of the hiring and firing. We have a regional manager. I have an executive assistant. So our team does.
How many different properties do you guys own right now that you're managing?
We have 4.
So they have 4 different properties, just so you know. Say scaled up. Okay.
And when you started to add that staff, was that when you went out of town?
We had our regional before we did that deal, but about 6 months before that.
Yeah, so we haven't talked about it, but they actually have a property in Amarillo as well. So as they saw their projection and where they wanted to go, they staffed up accordingly so that they could travel and see the property in Amarillo. And I know you've spent a significant amount of time up there too.
And so that's part of the kind of the progress as we grow, and you guys are probably a lot more familiar than we are, but we are adding team members. So we are able to make sure our properties in Houston are performing the way we are when we are out of town in Amarillo, or we're doing, looking at new deals and stuff like that. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for sharing.